Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with leaders from all over the world who are here sharing their insights and wisdom so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, where we help businesses scale revenue using outside the box visibility strategies. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. Stay to the end because we have a special gift for you. But without further ado, I want to welcome my guest today, Valeria Torres. I'm excited to have this conversation. She's got a lot going on. And we're going to talk about some different things we haven't talked about on this show. And so without further ado, welcome Valeria to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
It's a pleasure to have you. So Valeria, can you kick us off and tell us a little bit about you, about valeriatorres.io and what you're up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a little bit short story about me. I am originally from Colombia, South America. I came to the United States when I was just 8 years old. So, I have that whole background story of coming to the US and really making those dreams come true. But as I went for my journey from a small child all the way up until where I am now, I've gone anywhere. I've been in the legal industry for about 16 years. And this year marks a huge milestone, but going backwards a little bit, I went from being in different practice areas, from reception to case manager to paralegal, then handling departments as their own. And then eventually, as I continued with my education and my career, that's where the growth happened of valeriatorres.io. I currently hold a corporate psychologist degree, and I am able to expand on it while I'm currently working as a director of operations at eight-figure firm consulting, where we grow and scale businesses for law firms specifically. And through that, I was able to look at my psychology aspect and bring to life the brand of what Valeria IO is. And that is just industrial organizational psychology is the big old title that we have behind the degree. And what that means is I've been able to incorporate years of legal industry basics and bring them to the psychology aspect. And now I'm just constantly talking to business owners about what do you do in an organization? What do you do for yourself? How do you maintain that executive thousand labels that you have and a million plays you're juggling at once? But how do you make sure you don't burn out and that you are a high performer no matter what you're doing as an executive?
So what brought you into the legal space? Like what got you started there? Were your parents involved in, did you grow up in this space and that was where your interest lied, or was it just something that you were always passionate about? Some people, some kids, they're just love to debate and they're like, you'd be a great lawyer or you'd be a great person in the legal space. Was that
Yeah.
you?
Absolutely. It was a little bit of a mixture of both. So my grandma was actually a prosecutor. So that's kind of when I first saw like what is legal and what happened. But then later on, you're absolutely right. I kept hearing the you talk too much, you argue too much, you should probably be somewhere in the legal industry. And then I involved myself more in college. I was doing a linguistics major and I said, let me try out some business law classes. And then the passion just went insane. So I started about 19 years old before I knew anything. And then I continued in the career and it became more of a passion once I got into that business law aspect and learned contracts and negotiation and just fell in love with the legal aspect of it and more so the strategy side of it. So that's how I ended up legal and in the director of operations role in consulting firm.
And you shared that you have a degree in corporate psychology. So I've never heard that before. So can you share with us what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the official name for anybody looking out there, like, how do I get to this degree or how do I get there or what does that even mean? It is new in our field. It's definitely a pioneering degree. It is industrial organizational psychology is the actual terminology you'll see all over universities, but easily translated within our field. It's corporate because it is a business setting of psychology. So simply put together, psychology we know as human behavior and understanding the human brain and or what they're doing or haven't done. Add a little spin to it. The corporate side is the business aspect. It's actually in any in or like organization or industry. However, mine specializes in the legal industry right now and more so in executives themselves. That's going to be the individual, but it's the principles of psychology, blend them with corporate setting, and what do you do to make sure the organizations thrive? Because people are our biggest asset.
You also shared that you help legal companies like law firms, legal companies in the legal space create 8-figure businesses. So can you tell us more about 8-figure firm and then in your role within it and also who you help and how you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Eight Figure Firm is a consulting business. We thrive in growing and scaling, two different things specifically, but growing is making sure that your revenue goes up and your expenses are going up. A lot of people find themselves, no matter what industry, but specifically law firms, find themselves within the first couple years in that range where they're just growing, 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 and then they get tired of it or they don't know what else is going to happen. And then scaling is where we come in because now you're winning to make sure that the business scales at a level where your revenue increases, but your expenses lower, and you're able to actually have the firm run on its own versus you having to spin your wheels at all times being a lawyer and a business owner. So at Eight Figure Firm, we take care of everything from marketing, legal, operations, finance, you name it. We're there to make sure you're taken care of. But business owners is the creation that we want to make. So instead of you being that lawyer that's only known law, and you're tired of potentially being in that or in the business doing the law part, you're now becoming a law firm owner and having a law firm become a business that you can thrive on and potentially get yourself out of there, accomplish other dreams that you want. Maybe it's your dream is just to not be in the office 24/7. And that's the goal that we look at with each individual client and make sure it comes true.
I love what you do because I was just talking with somebody earlier on this podcast in the medical space. And just like doctors, lawyers go to school for a very long time to learn their craft and learn what they do, but they're not taught how to run a business, right? So
Yeah.
that's where you come in. And I think this is very important and a very important piece to talk into because so many business owners, entrepreneurs, we are really good at what we do, right? That's why we open a business, but we're not necessarily good at running businesses. So we need that support in the back end. So would you suggest with one, the company that you work with, and also building your brand now that you're building, and then we're going to talk about it that too. But what would you suggest for somebody who's really good at what they do, and that's the passion and the inspiration for them starting a business, into their first steps to making sure that they are building that lucrative business growing forward? Because we do see 90% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. And I'm thinking that it's because we are trying to hold too many hats as a business owner. And we're really good at what we do, but we try to learn too many other things because we don't want to hire. So can you talk into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the biggest principles in the industrial organizational aspect is looking at your strengths versus looking at what you can do. Let me explain that a little bit. So, the idea is that most of us can and are capable to a certain extent to do anything we want. But when we have too many plates running at the same time or too many tasks, too many projects, the priority level, there's first of all, let's go back a little bit. In the brain, there's no such thing as multitasking, even though we've called it something and we want to. Basically, what's happening in your brain when you are doing multitasking is you're dropping the urgency or priority in what you're currently doing and shifting it to something else. So the principle of multitasking, it's something that we need to rewire in our entrepreneur brains, which is let's stop thinking that we can do a bunch of things at one time and let's really hone in and focus on what do I want to do and prioritize. Let's pick one project that really needs to be established. Let's call it a business plan. Let's make sure that before I open up a business, I do what I normally would do in life. If I am as great as I can be, let's make sure I focus on what's my strength. Is it operational? Is it coming up with ideas? Is it maybe the finance aspect, the marketing aspect of a business? Let me really deep dive into my strength and make sure that I pull there, but then look at what other people do I need? Because if you're one of my business owners that thinks you can do it all by yourself, let me tell you transparently, yes, you can, but you shouldn't. The reason you shouldn't is because if you lean on the strengths of other people, such as your operational individual or your finance individual, you're going to find yourself building a better standing business than you will once you first start out. So when you ask me like, hey, what's something that a business owner needs to think about? Because we have too many juggling hats. How do we learn to be a real, true business owner? And the true answer for all of you is the more times you fail, the more that you keep trying and you get back up, that amount of resilience that it takes to just keep going no matter what happens, that's what's going to make the best business owners. Because as you mentioned, business owners have this little gap of time when it's like you might make it or you might not. The idea is to stop that gap and stop saying, oh, well, I gave up after X. The resilience that it takes for you to keep going isn't necessarily your operations, your systems, or what you know or don't know as a business owner, because you're not going to go perfect into it. Nobody really taught us that in school. Nobody, unless you went to business administration school, and even that for your degree, you probably don't know how to run a business. You just have this real intuition and path of like, I could probably handle this and I can do it. But really, what we need to lean on is fail more often. Don't be so hard on yourself. Make sure that you say, like, I tried it today. Let me figure out who else can do it better. I might not be the best, but I know how to find the resources. And I have the attitude of I can and I will. And that's one of the biggest things for my brand that it started was, can I do it? Absolutely. Should I do it? Yes. Now is the time because there's no better time. And then I need to figure out what am I really good at and why haven't I really mastered something else. So I know that I can lean into my degree and I can lean into my knowledge and my intuition and guide law firm owners in their mindset and their mentality and their shifting and rewiring of their brain. But I'm not going to be the best at making sure my marketing is up to par. That's why I partnered with someone to make sure that they're handling and managing my social media, my website, all these things where people need to understand what it's about so that I'm seen. But when they do come to see me, they see me as a business owner for my expertise, not because I was just able to create a business with marketing, finance, and operations. They need to see me for who I am and my brand. And for me, that means being able to fail enough and making sure that I provide the value as an expert in my actual expertise, which is the industrial organizational principles to teach business owners to keep moving forward and have that resilience.
Mm, so good. So Valeria, you work for a company and you also started your own brand. So what inspired you to start Valeria Torres.io?
So the inspiration comes from the fact that I was able to, I myself go to therapy all the time. I enjoy it. I tell people that it is one of the best kept secrets because we always have this stigma behind like mental health. Like, should I go there? What does that look like in my family, my culture, my age? But the matter of the fact is I use it just like I would use a gym. A gym is to maintain my body and my health. A therapy session is to maintain my mind and to make sure I get out what I need and that I put back in any tools or management of coping with that stress, coping with that burnout. How do I get out of that? So, in that spectrum there, I want to make sure that I was able to bridge that gap. I found the gap and I said, in my industry, in my two industries, there's a lot of stigma. In my legal industry, it's a man made world that it was, you're like, how are you a female executive in these seats? I created my own seat at the table. I didn't wait for a seat to be given. I made sure that I was able to get in there and figure out how do I work harder than you? How do I become better than the person next to me? Something I teach my employees, something that I teach my business owners, my accounts. How are you making sure not just to be better, but how is it that I can learn from those others at the table or not at the table and make sure that I give myself a place at the table, regardless of who's there or who wants me to be there or not? Because I create my own potential as to what I'm going to do and how I'm going to succeed. And then on the other side, it's more so what's the desire? Why did you open up this brand? Again, going back to the gap on the psychology aspect, been to therapy for years, and I never found a therapist that was able to connect with me at an executive level. I would walk into therapy and I would be like, hey, this is what's going on in my accounts. This is what's going on operationally. I'm so busy. Like, what am I doing in the business? How can I be so stressed all the time? And the therapist would just be like, so let's talk about what stress is like. But there wasn't that connection where I would be like, okay, maybe I'll just go to another topic because like you just won't understand business the way I need you to. So I'm here and I'm being heard, but I'm not being heard 100% because there isn't a background in this. And so I decided, let's pioneer it. Let's make sure if I'm not the first or if I'm going to be the first, let's make sure that we start it and that I'm able to bring the value to a whole industry or two industries to bridge the gap and make it, instead of a dream, make it a reality. So build my brand and live out the dream.
So you said something there that, as a business strategy coach for female entrepreneurs that we did before, and now we've pivoted our business to the back end because we saw the gap with our entrepreneurs and what they were missing. So we decided to fill it. I love what you shared because thinking back to when we were coaching, we were working with female entrepreneurs in the coaching space, and now we've pivoted our business more to the back end because we found a gap that we could serve them as well as move from B2C to B2B. You had mentioned that, about being the first. And when it comes to building a business, we're taught that we don't necessarily want to be the first. But you just shared, like, whether I was the first or not, I knew that there was a gap. So what was it that you felt compelled to? Because I'm sure there's people out here going, I have an amazing thought, I have an amazing idea. And we don't typically talk in entrepreneurship on this show. That's a different show. we typically talk into established businesses that are in the first couple of years and they're growing. But I would love to know, like, how did you step through that, which most people say, do not be the first,
Yeah.
and you possibly being the first and being okay with it.
Absolutely. I think it as you were talking and I was like, you know what? That's really like you kind of say I'm talking through things and then you it hits that rewind button and you're like, hold on, what did you just say that you've actually accomplished? And what was interesting to me just recapping that was I think I was never afraid. I was never looking for permission. I was not looking for permission to be. And that comes a lot with that self-confidence and that desire to be great for myself. I think that's a harder, easier said than done, let's say, because most entrepreneurs have either a mentality of traditional upbringing, whether it's your schooling, whether it's your family, whether it's your culture, whatever it is that your environment that you've lived in, that environment has either limited you or not to creating a shift for you. So part of the Limitless brand, which is this Valeria Torres that I own, the concept of it is to be limitless, to unlock your potential and to redefine success. And part of that is to say, what have I been limited or what thoughts have I had in whatever industry and whatever mindset that I have? And how can I break through that? Because in order for me to be better or be greater or be the first or pivot, if I really have such a great idea, why am I being my own obstacle? Why am I giving an excuse or a reason as to why I can't? Because if it was my environment, that's one thing. But if it's myself not believing in what I can or just saying, you know what, let's fail some more today. Because I think people who haven't heard no enough are afraid to hear that no. And the more that you hear no, the more resilience, the more perseverance that you have, and the more that you begin to like relieve those limitations and say, if I fail, what's the problem? If I win, great, let's keep going. So that mentality from a new founder that wants to open up a business to even the ones that currently exist in business for years and years and years, the idea is that you're constantly always thinking of yourself as a student. I don't know enough. I need to know more. I haven't done enough. What do I do? Now, some people might be like, whoa, that's too much. Like, I don't always want to be on. You have to determine what success looks like for you and not let a label or an environment tell you what success is. If you're the person that wants to work an 8 to 5, look, that might be your success. That's not mine. If your success is working 24/7, that's yours. We kind of compare a little bit, but sometimes I need to break down and not do it. I need a vacation. So define your success and really go for it, understanding that you're self-aware enough to say, I want this and I'm going to have it, no matter what it takes, no matter the time. There's no real time frame. There is nothing that says that you need it done by 2 weeks. There's nothing that says somebody's going to, even if a business has been created. One of my favorite books that I've read and I recommend to everyone, it's called Stealing Like an Artist. Everything out there has been built. And even if it hasn't, the idea of you unlocking your potential is to grab ideas from different brands, different businesses, all kinds of industries, and go, how do I make this better? If I'm going to be a business owner and a law firm exists, you're not recreating a law firm. You're recreating your brand and your consumer desire and your value proposition as to what do I want people to know me for and how do I make it better than anyone else out there. Just if you're opening up any type of business, medical, salons, whatever it is that if you want to be a coach, there's 1,000 coaches out there. There's 1 million consultants out there. I know for a fact, and I'm confident that I'm not the only one or the best one in the industry, but I know I do things different because I choose to do them different. So any new business wanting to get into it or any current ones, always stay a student and always know that you can do better, but you have to define success for yourself in order to have that goalpost where you're headed.
Yeah, there's so much that you said, and I wish I had my notebook out because now I can't come back and revisit it. But we're going to touch on a few things. And one was, I love that you're like, what does success look like for you? That's the last question I ask on this podcast every single time. If I could bring you back, I'll ask you it before we end. But if I can bring you back in 12, in a year, what does success look like for you? It's important that you define it. It's important that you can visualize it and you set the goal. And it should be out of reach, right? It should be outside of your comfort zone because that's how we grow. I also love that you said, like, how many times can I fail today? Whether you said it in those exact words in a roundabout way, that was a big, like, gold nugget that I took. How many times can I fail today? Most people are like, how do I win today? Right? How many times can I fail today? Because if I can fail multiple times, that means I'm trying something that nobody else is trying and I'm really getting uncomfortable. So what I hear is, how many times can I get uncomfortable today? And I'm just going to raise my hand and go, that is one of my biggest fears, because also you've got people judging you, right? Or we feel people are judging us. What are people thinking about us? What's my family saying? Well, how many clients did you get this week? What are you doing? Like they're worried, right? And they do it out of concern, but it's also something in the back of our mind going, oh my gosh, I have this level of stress that I know this question's coming to me because my family cares about me. They don't understand anything about what I'm doing.
Mhm.
They think I should get that 8 to 5, 9 to 5 that you were talking about. And I do love that you said, like, what does success look like for you? And it looks different from everybody. It could look like that 4 hour workday. It could look like you're taking a month off or 2 months off a year, and your team is, your business is still growing because you're taking that time off and you've got team behind you. But if you don't define it and get a vision around it, it's not going to happen. So, what made you take the leap? And I want to talk about branding versus business because right now you're building a brand. So let's start there because there's something that I've heard from founders talking about that on our podcast, like founder-led marketing is becoming more and more and more important in today's market landscape. So why are you deciding that you're building a brand before even if before or if you even launch a company, a business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's one of the lessons that I'm very much into research and like looking at what has somebody done before and like what is missing out there in the field. That is just where my brain normally lives, is looking for those ideas. And to make sure I go into things that people are normally thinking. One of the things you mentioned was imposter syndrome that we all have and we will always have. It's almost like that dopamine that we have back there going like, what if like somebody thinks I'm not the right one, or what if somebody thinks I'm saying the wrong thing, and it feels that uncomfort. So it's knowing what imposter syndrome is, knowing that we're going to have it and still going, but that's still not going to keep me away from what I want to do. So part of that is like, why did I go into branding, and why is that so important for me? Because there is that imposter syndrome, whether it's perception from someone else or our own self giving us that label without knowing that we're doing that mentally. It's understanding that a brand is a way for any single individual. I have the narrative of my story. If I put my brand out there, you will know what I represent. Like, let's get something straight. It's not the logo, it's not the colors, that's not my brand, not my little slogan, that's not my brand. My brand is, what do I represent? What are my core values? What is my vision? What is my mission? What am I trying to accomplish in an industry where there's 1,000 more like me? But how do I differentiate in my brand, and who do I want to attract? So think of your brand as your personal narrative and your personal business card out there in the world. What do I say? What do I do? And how is it that I'm different than anyone else out there? Because that's what I want to attract my consumer or my client or my patient or whatever it might be. The idea is that they clearly understand, and I want to make sure I say that they clearly understand. They should not be guessing what I do. They should not be guessing who am I and what do I believe in, because my brand and what I talk about, those blogs, those posts that I make, even my pictures and what perception I want people to think of me, is this is what my brand looks like. What is the Limitless brand? It's somebody who's bold. It's someone who's an executive. It's someone who's willing to say no 10,000 more times. It's someone who has failed before and or has trauma or has dealt with ADHD, PTSD, anxiety, depression. You put as many labels as you want on it as my personal story, but the idea behind Limitless is the perseverance and the resilience that it takes for you to keep going and not accept a no as your final answer. So that is why your brand, as long as my brand as well, is so important to you as a business owner, whether you're starting out or you're thinking about starting. It's really understanding yourself and going, just like we said, you have to measure success. You have to know who you are in order to present it to the world the way you want. Because otherwise, everyone is going to look just like you. And if you're just like anyone, then the person that's actually branding out correctly, they're going to get your business. They're going to get the consumers or the businesses that you want, or even that perception that you once imagined, because you aren't 100% sure of who you are and what success looks like for you and your business.
So it's really clear, it really important that everybody defines exactly what this is. Like with your business plan, like Larry, you shared, you really get focused on what's the task right now. Before you go too far ahead, you've got to have the business plan. You've got to determine your brand. And that's really, really important. And I know when I was building my coaching business, my brand was wild. It was unknown. And then I hired somebody and she's like, you need to really dial in your brand. And I'm like, why? What does colors matter? What does all that matters? And it does matter. because it's really about you, and you are your brand, right? And I think my question for you is B2C versus B2B.
Mhm.
How important is it for those people in more of the corporate space to lean into creating their personal brand? Is it important or not? Or is it more important to just develop the corporate brand, or do they kind of like merge together?
So it can be a blend. What I will say is I'll differentiate the B2C and the B2B. So when we're looking at, let's say that you're a lawyer and you're looking at your personal brand, you have to ask the question, who am I servicing and why is it that they want to come to me? So if I am a business servicing out literal services, they are going to fall in love with the person behind the colors and the logo and the office building. Like it's beautiful that you have a mega building and an office with all windows and you're just successful. The consumer likes that, but what they really fall in love with is the background story. Why did you become a lawyer? What do you dress like? What do you look like? What community part are you in? What maybe charities or sponsorships are you doing? The reason your brand is important is because a person, and think about your own self going out in the world. When you see a brand, you're really attached to these brands because of the emotional aspect that they're bringing for you. Can I connect with them? Do I have the same values? Do I believe in that brand? Is it aesthetically pleasing for me or is it just jumbled up? Somebody with ADHD, if I see a brand that is very jumbled up in too many words, I'm like, oh, well, I can't, because like that just gives me like the OCD part of it. But if I see a brand that's very minimalistic and it's very clean and elegant, I connect with that brand because it gives me that emotional essence of like, I really want to like see what this brand's about. So think of yourself, if you are B2C, what does my consumer need to see, perceive, and feel when they think of my brand so that I can attract that consumer? It's not too far fetched from B2B. When I'm thinking business to business, I'm going to think of what is that at the end of the day, it's a human being making a decision. They could work for another firm, but that person still has emotions. That person still needs to connect. That person needs to say, do I believe in what they're saying? Do I believe in their values? Have I gone through something like they have? Is it that I connect with the simplicity of what the brand says? Is it that I'm very complex with like they have 1,000 case studies and research and maybe like a lot of funding or whatever it is? What do I connect with? So the brand, think of it, it's not for you, it's for the person looking at you. So whether it's a consumer or it's another business trying to work with you, what is it that attracts them to you naturally without you even having to say a word? That is what your brand is.
And as you're building your brand, and I know this is one thing I struggled with when I was coaching, getting my messaging dialed in, as well as my brand is we want to help everybody, right? Because we think we can help everybody. But your brand is really like you get to draw the line in the sand, who you want to resonate with, who will resonate with you, and be okay that you're going to repel a lot of people in the process. That's a big thing that I think a lot of people get nervous about. They don't want to repel anybody, and it's okay. You want to repel the people and you want to talk directly, because when you talk directly to the right consumer for your product, for your service, then they're going to feel connected with you just like you did. There's a perfect example of these lawyers, different law firms in my area. I'm in South Florida, and I don't want to give too much away. Like, I don't want to call anybody out. But there's different law firms that do similar things, and one is huge, but they're leaning into their family. They're leaning into their grandchildren. Their children work for the company or their partners, and they really lean into that family piece. Where there's another one that's big, not as big, but it's very much colder, comes across. There's no mention into story or family or personal connection there. So just talking with you, I never even thought about it until we were just talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, those two different companies just came to my mind. And then there's another one who's not in my area, but I do see him in on like the streaming, the certain cable networks or whatever, and he has his kids. And he's like, and they say, call my dad. And it's bringing in that family element. So he's staying top of mind. He's being memorable, and he's bringing in that human personal connection of building that brand, which is great. And what I'm loving that we're talking about, because literally, Valeria, we haven't talked about that on this podcast. So I really, really love this because I think it's super important, and more businesses need to learn that and understand that in order to grow. And that's a big growth factor. We can talk about, cold email outreach. We can talk about advertising, paid ads. We can talk about organic, content growth and all the things like that. But part of it, a lot of it, no matter what media you're doing, story, personal connection matters. So tell us more about Valeria.io. Who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was an awesome recap because it literally brought it all full circle. And I think having the listeners and or business owners all and above understand that brand is that connecting piece, whether you've done it really well or intentional. That's another part of it. Measure your success with how intentional am I with what I'm doing? Am I bringing in the consumers? And that goes, I love that you said you have to be okay to repel some people. At some point, there's two things that I talk about with a lot of individuals, and that is at the level you are at and while you're measuring your success, there's two things that you always want, and only one of them you can't gain much more of. So you always want more money because the more money you have, the more freedom you have to whatever you do. That just depends on your spending style and what you want. You will always be able to gain more money one way or another. If you are resilient, money will always come. But the one thing that people haven't begin to see as currency is time. You will never spend or get time back if you spent it in the wrong way. So when you think of your brand, think of it's not about the amount of money I put in, it's not the amount of money that I don't put in. Think of it as what time am I gaining and what consumers am I gaining by doing this right the right way and slowing down and actually taking effect into what I need in my brand versus all that time that I've spent thinking that I have a brand and thinking that I don't need a brand before you actually get into it. And all that time's gone and like you're never going to get that time back. So make sure that you are spending a lot of time in something that is valuable to you, which is your brand and connecting that piece. And that goes again back into the valeriatorres.io. Trust me, like many of you, and if you haven't gotten into this world just yet and you're listening, something you want to think about is if you're saying, I've just done the website way too many times, I'm tired of it, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm here to tell you, I've redone my website about 5 to 6 different times because until it was set correctly for what the intention was, there was some reiteration. Sometimes when I woke up, I was like, I want blue and yellow, whatever, let's do that. And the next day I was like, you know what? I want it to be very chic and elegant and whatever it is until I really got my brand down and I sat down and I said, what do I really care about and what colors follow that? Some of you might have heard of color psychology. And there's different things that different colors do. There's different fonts. And again, it goes back to your audience. So when you ask me, who is your audience? My audience specifically, because I've measured success, which is one of your first pillars to do. The second one is understand who you are. And now I can go after with a well-established brand and say, because I know who I am and what success looks like, who do I service? My servicing audience is any executive in any industry that is at that level of stress and impact where you know that it gets very lonely. So you can't look up because most likely you are the owner and you're like, it's very lonely up here. There's nobody that wants to talk about this. Or if you're an executive in a boardroom where you're looking down and you have employees and a boss, you're lost in the middle because you can't look down. They're going to be like, do you know what you're doing? Are you leading correctly? And you can't look up because they're like, wait, I gave you this role. Do you know what you're doing? So it gets very lonely for that executive. And when they come and share the space in the Limitless brand and in the Valeria IO, what that does is it allows you to have a space of somebody else gets it and there's no judgment, there's no labels. All of that goes out the window because one of my first intro questions that I do with my clients and or when I'm interviewing for someone is tell me about you without your resume. Tell me who you are without any of your credentials. Because we follow short with all these labels that we keep for ourselves. And as business owners, you're always safety netting is what I call it, giving yourself a label so that you actually validate and that you belong or you believe you belong somewhere because you have a label. Remove all those labels and tell me who you are without any of those things that you've done in your career.
So good. When you were talking just now, I was just thinking about, and it just popped up on my feed like last week. So I think this was meant to be. There is a episode in Friends where Chandler gets promoted, and Phoebe, like I don't know if she got him the job or whatever, but he gets promoted, so he's working above the people he was friends with, the employees, and now Phoebe is going out with all the workers, and she invites him, but she doesn't want to go with him. She's like, can we walk in separately? And he is now like no longer friends. There's a completely different level of communication there. And he has to come to terms with it because he is now their superior and he has a superior. And like you said, it's finding that that happy medium in between. Like you don't want to be looking down, but you also can't be friends, like maybe that you were, or it's different capacity, and you can't be looking up because they're not going to make sure that they want to make sure they've made the right decision. Can you share with us, for you, especially working in the two different capacities that you're in, what's been successful for you? How are you, one, building your brand as far as like getting out there and being seen in marketing? Maybe some things that you've done that are working, and maybe some things that haven't worked, and vice versa for also, the company that you're working with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also, within Eight Figure Firm, I'm also taking care of the marketing and the brand and all these aspects. So one way or another, whether I'm doing it for another business or I'm doing it for my own, the principles still hold, which is what is the voice? What is the tone? What is it that we're trying to accomplish across those channels, whatever channel you might be doing? One of the important things are lessons that I think I have three main lessons that I've learned. And it goes for both business owner and or brand. And it is letting go of perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. You have to, and that's why I say fail as much as you can, because there's no such thing as perfect. And one of those things that you have to come to grips with is it might not be perfect, but it's going to be better tomorrow. It needs to be good today because that's my standard. One of the things I tell everybody is remove expectations from people and things because it leads to failure. Make sure you set a standard for what you want because then you have something to work toward and you can always move that standard of need. If I do an expectation, I'm going to set up to failure because I'm expecting what I want or what I would do to someone else or to a system or to a business where it might not be at that level or it might not work as much as I work. So remove perfection from your vocabulary. It doesn't exist. I know it's hard to hear because everyone wants to be perfect. No such thing. Stop trying it. Second thing is, like I mentioned, fail more often. Yes, think of the good things. You need to be positive and have that going towards you. But if you are someone who knows that is going to get challenged, needs a little bit more of like, what is new? What can I do? How can I do better today? Congratulate yourself and give yourself the validation you need, but get into working mode and gear mode and go, how can I fail more today? Because the more times I fail, the more I hear no, the more times I fall, the more times I'm prepared to move forward and with more fuel direction. So I'm going to be intentional about what I'm doing. And the last thing that I've learned from the lessons of branding and doing this is really try something and give it enough time for it to work. I was very impatient and I was like, I need this to work tomorrow, like any business owner yesterday. Look, things are going to take the time that they take. It is better to slow down and do things with intention, with impact, and in the right way with the right experts versus you trying to do everything right now just because I can. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can get a logo up doesn't mean it's the best one. Just because you thought about the tone and the voice for 2 seconds does not mean that should be the voice of the message or the brand. So take your time. Your time is valuable. You're not going to get that back. It's better to slow down to propel than it is to just go, go, go and always be working backwards to fix all the issues that you've created in the first place.
Yeah, I loved all of that. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. Hi, my name is Heidi. So yeah, I totally get that. And releasing expectations is huge because it can comparisonitis too. No matter whether you are a business owner, B2B, or you're B2C, you can't compare yourself with other coaches out there. You can't compare yourself with other CEOs and founders out there and what they're doing in the space. Like you just like literally, like you said, give yourself time, release that. Because you can, people, especially when it's uncomfortable, because, when things are uncomfortable, we're like, oh, well, this person put out a post. I should be able to go live and go viral. It doesn't happen that way. It
Yeah.
takes time after time after time of what you shared earlier, really fine tuning your messaging, really dialing things in, getting really clear on who you are. And that takes time to figure out. Like when you said you redid your website multiple times, it took time to figure out who you are, right? How you want to show up and who you want to serve and who that person is. And that takes market research. That takes time to figure that out. And we can go into a whole nother session on market research. We're not going to do today. But no, this has been fantastic. So Valeria, what are some challenges you faced in the growth of your brand?
So I think like many of us, or for those of you that are currently experiencing it but don't want to admit to it, I'm here to tell you that we all are we're facing the same things at different stages. I think it just depends on the stage you're in. Some of my failures that have now become success has been understanding how I functioned differently when I was diagnosed ADHD. So not knowing I got diagnosed as an adult. If I would have known as a kid, my life would have probably been even better. But didn't know. So there was some certain struggles of perfection, imposter syndrome, impulses, zero patience, all the things that you are most likely living through or have lived through. Understanding that ADHD for me was not only a label, but it was it was my brain working in an environment that wasn't built for me. That was one of the biggest things that I understood was the environment wasn't built for me. I need to rebuild that environment for myself. That was one of the things. Like I mentioned specifically, imposter syndrome. We're all gonna have it at some point because once we want to step out of our comfort or be better or be the new something, it's very scary. Like it is very valid to be scared to do so, but it's going back and going, do I try it and fail and be better? Or do I just stay here wishing I would have? Because either way, you're going to beat yourself about it. Either I tried and I fail and I'm going to be better, and oh, I should have done this better and I will next time. And you continue to do it and do it and do it until you perfect your craft. Or you're going to be sitting back going, dang, I should have. 20 years ago when I had that idea, I should have done it. So I think my failures and or things that I've gone through that have been obstacles was myself. I'm the obstacle. The second one was living in an environment that was not built for me and understanding that I needed to rebuild an environment for how my brain worked and what I wanted to do and redefining that success. And then the other failure was thinking that everything needed to be done right now and I was the only person that could do it. Control. Control was the biggest thing as business owners and building your brand and entrepreneur brains or anything you want to give yourself. Control has always been kind of our kryptonite of like, I want it, but when I have it, like, what do I do with it? Understanding that not controlling everything is more powerful than controlling everything is the biggest lesson I could tell someone. I used to think that controlling every aspect of every single thing was what needed to happen in order for things to be done right. And I shortly found out that not controlling things, allowing things to happen at their time frame, allowing things to be done by those experts that I needed to help me was the best idea and the best movement forward because I was removing some stress that was unnecessary. I was not creating chaos that I didn't need to create. And I was able to say, I don't need to control everything. I need to let things work out on their own, knowing that I have a path and a goal to get to.
Yeah. And this is where psychology can come into play too. Like I understand that because I was very controlling at my business when I first started, and it got me nowhere. So now I release all the stuff I don't know. My business partner handles a lot of the back end tech. I have no interest in learning it. I don't want to learn it. It would take me 3 times as long. And she's really good at that. And we're building a team over both around both of us that are good at what we do. And she doesn't want to be doing the podcast and face forward. I don't want to be doing the background tech things that take me 17 hours to do one thing. And I think understanding that is important, but there's also a psychology around it as well, which is what you do. And I am now, by you talking about that, I see that. And the imposter syndrome is huge. And I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to keep this very brief, but imposter syndrome is huge because when it's always, like you said, it's always going to come up. And this is something I've talked into with my female entrepreneurs when I was working with them. Imposter syndrome is never going to go away, especially if you're growing. If you want to level up, that's going to show up again. Because like you said, we're stepping out of our comfort zone. We're becoming a version of ourselves that we've never been before. And anytime we do that, even if you look at the hugest of the huge out there, they've had an imposter syndrome every time they've leveled. They don't say it, but I guarantee 100% I would bet my mortgage on it, everything on it, that they've had imposter syndrome too. And they got to show confidently. And, it's scary to show confidently when you're not knowing exactly what you're doing. But like you said, how many times are you willing to fail? Keep failing, keep getting up. That's how you're going to learn. And every time you hit that next level of comfort where you're like, I'm good, I'm really comfortable with who I am and I know my stuff, that's the time where you get to step up again and go, okay, welcome imposter syndrome. Let me have you back because it's time to go to the next level. It's time to make a different impact in whatever industry you're making that impact on. And how can you make a difference in the world from the impact you're making in your space? And that's another thing we didn't have time to talk into, but really like when you said, knowing what success looks like for you. Also include that giving element into that success. Once you reach that success, how are you making an impact, not only in your space, but in the world and a difference? Because that's going to elevate you in a way too. And it's the way, just the ripple effect you're going to make in the world, which is exciting. So share with us how people can connect with you, Valeria, and learn more about you and your company,
Yeah,
your
absolutely. So
brand.
I am all over the platform, so the website itself can take you and guide you where you need to, but it's my first name, Valeria, last name, Torres.io. That is the website, and that follows me everywhere. Part of your brand is making it easy for anyone to find you. So Instagram, LinkedIn, you can look it up. It's my name, it's IO. That's the handles for everything. Feel free to just Google. And apparently today, my team reached out to me and said, look at how cool this is. You can go on ChatGPT right now and put Valeria Torres Limitless, and it'll tell you absolutely everything because they've been working, my team has been working so hard on that brand and making sure that the blogs and making sure that everything populates where it needs to be, that you can now, which is very strange to say because I had never even thought of this, you can ChatGPT my name with the word limitless, and you will see images and all of the understandings that happen at valeriatorres.io.
That's so cool. And that's a whole nother
That's a whole
conversation.
nother world.
Whole nother world of conversation. But obviously, Valeria is the master of brand building. She's doing it. So definitely connect with her, reach out to her, valeria.io, chat GPT her, and learn more. That's the first time we've referenced ChatGPT to learn more about somebody, just so you know. Out of 100 and so, over 100 episodes right now, where that's the first time, which I love. And I'm sure we'll hear more down the road, but you're the very first, Valeria.
Look at that. You gotta make sure you're the first and everything. See?
Don't be afraid to be the first. Real quick to so valeria.io, if you're listening to us or watching us on YouTube, thank you. Hit that subscribe button. Please share this episode out. It's fantastic. People need to learn more about this and learn more about Valeria. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, I'm going very fast. Please leave a review, 5 stars. I'm just running out of time. This is how we get to her, Valeria, and our guests out there more. If you know somebody that would benefit from Valeria and the message she shared with you today, please share this. Please put this out there. We need your help in helping more businesses grow and thrive. I promised y'all a gift. Here it is. Go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint. That is your blueprint for stepping outside the box, getting uncomfortable, stepping into imposter syndrome when it comes to scaling your business through outside the box visibility strategies. If you want to grow, you've got to try something different. You've got to get uncomfortable, and we're going to help you do that. So go grab that. It's free. It's yours. Valeria, real quick before we wrap up, can you share what does success look like for you and what's next for Valeria.io?
The success for me right now looks like enjoying the fruits of my current labor first. So, what I mean by that is this was once upon a time a dream, and I'm currently living it. So, one of the things that I teach is make sure that your dreams become a reality and then keep dreaming and then keep creating reality. So, like you will see everywhere, in order to unlock your potential, you have to redefine success and make sure that you become limitless. So, figure out and ask yourself the question, how do I become limitless today? So that nothing and no label or excuse gets in my way and I can be my full potential and full success. My success is to make sure that you're successful because you need to understand that nothing can limit you from getting to where you want to be. If you can just simply understand that from listening, watching, or anything, then my success has been met. And when we get to my next chapter, I hope that you're there to live it with me. My next chapter will be to make sure that those individuals can tell us their stories of how they became limitless. And the more limitless that we all become, that will be what my next chapter of success looks like.
Amazing. So thank you, Valeria. And it's valeriatorres.io. I just shared valeria.io, just going fast. It's valeriatorres.io. All of the links are in the show notes. Valeria, thank you so much. It's been so much fun talking with you. It's been an incredible episode. We've talked about things we've never touched on before on this show. So I'm really excited about that. Please connect with Valeria. She's incredible, as you can hear. And we will see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlights.